My own brother sold my house while I was away. The problem? He didn't know the house wasn't just mine. It was sitting on restricted federal property. Stay with me as I tell you how it all happened. And if my story connects with you, don't forget to like, share, and support this channel so more people can hear it. I'm Zariah Adetola, 29 years old, a Nigerian-American woman living in Maryland. I worked hard for everything I own. My house wasn't just 4 walls and a roof. It was the proof that years of sacrifice, long hours, and saving every penny were worth it. It was my safe place. But when I trusted the wrong person, everything I built almost collapsed in front of me. That wrong person was my own brother, Malik. He's 33, older than me by 4 years, and growing up, I always looked up to him. Our parents raised us with strong values. Family comes first, loyalty is everything. But somewhere along the way, Malik stopped believing in those words. He was charming, yes. People loved being around him. But underneath, he was reckless, always chasing shortcuts, always borrowing money, always in trouble. When I had the chance to go abroad for 6 months on a big work assignment, I didn't think twice about asking him to watch over my house. It felt natural. He was family. I thought he would protect it the way I would. He smiled and promised me, "Don't worry, little sis, I got you." And I believed him. The day I left for Senegal, I locked my front door with peace in my heart. I thought when I came back, my house would be waiting for me the same way I left it. What I didn't know was that Malik had other plans. The betrayal didn't come gently. It hit me like a truck. I came back with my suitcase in one hand and my key in the other. I was dreaming of my own bed, the smell of my home, the comfort of finally being back. But when I opened the gate, I saw cars I didn't recognize in the driveway. Curtains I never bought hanging in the windows. At first, I thought Malik had rented the place out without telling me. But when I stepped inside, strangers looked at me like I was trespassing. A woman stood in the hallway holding paperwork with my address on it, signed and stamped. She said, "We bought this house." "Who are you?" My knees almost gave out. My own brother had sold my house behind my back. The place I fought for, the place I trusted him with. And as if that wasn't enough, soon I would learn the house wasn't just mine. It was sitting on land that carried secrets Malik never could have imagined. And that's where the nightmare truly began. Our parents came to America from Nigeria with nothing but determination and faith. They always told us that family must come before everything else. My father would say, "If the world turns its back on you, your blood will not." And my mother would remind us that loyalty is wealth greater than money. Those words were like rules written on the walls of our home. I grew up believing in them with all my heart. I thought Malik did too. From the time we were children, Malik was the kind of person who drew people in. He had a smile that could win over strangers in minutes, a way of talking that made everyone trust him. Teachers loved him, friends followed him, and even neighbors spoiled him. But behind that charm, there was a recklessness. Malik never planned for tomorrow. He would spend everything he had in his pocket on the same day, always sure something else would come to replace it. I was the opposite. While he dreamed of quick money and easy victories, I spent years saving every dollar I earned. I worked long shifts, skipped nights out, and denied myself luxuries because I had a goal. I wanted a home of my own, a place that belonged to me, where no one could push me out. For me, the house was more than just walls. It was stability, something our parents had always wished for but never achieved in their early years. When I finally bought it, I thought Malik would be proud. He congratulated me, hugged me, and even joked, "Don't forget me when you become a big landlord." But behind his laugh, I sometimes caught a flicker of something darker. His eyes lingered too long when he walked through the rooms. He would say things like, "You're lucky, Zariah. Some of us aren't as blessed as you." It sounded like a compliment, but it carried weight. It felt like he believed he deserved what I had. As time went on, those little cracks in our bond became clearer. Malik was always short on money. One month it was unpaid car bills, the next it was loans from friends, then gambling debts he swore weren't serious. Whenever he came to me, asking for help, I gave what I could. Not because I wanted to encourage his ways, but because I couldn't bear to see my brother sink. I told myself, family helps family. But sometimes, after handing him money, I wondered if I was just feeding his carelessness. He never seemed grateful. Instead, he acted as though it was his right, as if my hard work was something he could dip into whenever he needed. And when I would gently remind him that I worked hard for what I had, he would grow quiet, his smile fading for a moment before he shrugged it off. Looking back, the warning signs were all there. The jealousy, the sense of entitlement, the belief that what was mine should also be his. I ignored them because I loved him. I told myself loyalty meant forgiveness. I didn't realize loyalty, in his mind, meant ownership. Ownership of me, my sacrifices, and eventually my home. When the opportunity came for me to travel to Senegal for 6 months, it felt like a dream. My company had chosen me for a project that would open doors I'd been praying for. I imagined walking through Dakar's busy streets, learning new things, and building my career. The only shadow over my excitement was the thought of leaving my house behind. It was my pride, my proof of hard work, and the place I felt most safe. Malik noticed my hesitation right away. He told me, "Don't worry, Zariah. I'll look after the place. You know I got you." At first, I resisted. Something in me wasn't comfortable handing over the keys. But he pushed gently, then firmly, making me feel guilty for doubting him. What if there's an emergency? What if the pipes burst, or something happens while you're gone? Family is supposed to step up. "Don't you trust me?" Those words pierced me. Of course I trusted him. He was my brother. So against my better judgment, I left him with limited access, telling myself it was only for emergencies. What I didn't see was the storm Malik was already drowning in. While I was packing for my trip, he was avoiding phone calls from men he owed money to. Failed business deals, unpaid loans, and interest piling up. He was in deeper trouble than I could imagine. And every time he looked at my house, he saw not my sacrifice, but a solution. To him, the walls I built with years of sweat looked like dollar signs. He told himself stories to ease the guilt. "She doesn't need it right now. She's in Africa living her dream. I'll sell it, clear my debts, and later I'll fix it somehow. Maybe buy her another one. She'll forgive me when she sees I did it for survival." He didn't think about the betrayal. He didn't think about the nights I spent working 2 jobs, the meals I skipped, the things I gave up to save enough for that house. He only thought about the men pounding on his door, demanding money. He thought about the shame of failure, the humiliation of debt. While I was busy sending photos from Senegal, laughing with my new co-workers, and writing in my journal about the future, Malik was meeting strangers in secret. He was drawing up plans that would shatter the foundation of everything I believed in. If you had asked me then, I would have told you Malik was my protector, the one person I could count on. I had no idea that while I walked confidently through a new country, my brother was preparing to sell away the very thing I trusted him with most. He told himself it was temporary, that one day I would understand. But what he didn't realize was that some wounds cut too deep to ever heal, and some betrayals can never be undone. The flight home felt endless, but all I could think about was sinking into my own bed. After 6 months in Senegal, working hard and living out of a suitcase, I craved the comfort of my house more than anything. I pictured myself unlocking the door, setting my bags down, and breathing in the familiar smell of home. Every mile closer filled me with relief. I had missed this place, the one thing I thought was untouchable, the one thing I believed would always be waiting for me. When the cab pulled up to my street, I smiled. The sight of my house made my heart swell. But then I noticed something strange. There were cars in the driveway I didn't recognize. Curtains I had never hung covered the windows. For a moment, I thought Malik had rented out the place without telling me, and irritation bubbled in my chest. I dragged my suitcase up the walkway, ready to confront him for not respecting boundaries. But when I pushed my key into the lock, it didn't fit. Confused, I tried again, twisting, jiggling, but the door refused to open. That was when I heard footsteps inside. The door swung open, and a man I had never seen before stared at me like I was the intruder. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone sharp, protective. Behind him, a woman appeared holding a baby, peeking at me with suspicion. This is my house," I stammered, my voice breaking. "What are you doing here?" The woman's eyes narrowed. "Your house?" "No, this is our house. We bought it months ago." She disappeared for a moment, then returned holding a stack of documents. She shoved them toward me. "Here. Everything is legal. The seller's name is Malik Adetola. He signed all of it." My brother's name stared back at me in black ink. My stomach twisted, and the world tilted. The ground felt like it had been ripped away. Malik had sold my house. He hadn't rented it. He hadn't protected it. He had sold it, my safe place, my sacrifice, my everything. Like it was nothing more than a piece of property he could trade for cash. The man holding the door looked ready to call the police, and for a second I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened. My key fell from my hand onto the porch, and my suitcase tipped over. I nearly collapsed under the weight of what I was seeing. My brother's betrayal wasn't just a mistake. It was a knife driven deep into my trust. I wanted to scream, to deny it, to believe this was a cruel misunderstanding. But the papers were right there, stamped and signed, carrying Malik's name. My house was gone, and so was the foundation of loyalty I thought my family stood on. In that moment, standing outside my own locked door, I realized everything had changed. And nothing would ever be the same again. I didn't even remember the drive to Malik's apartment. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles burned, and my chest pounded with rage. Betrayal had a taste. It was bitter, metallic, sitting on my tongue as I climbed the narrow stairs to his door. My house. My home. Gone. And his signature was the weapon that took it from me. When the door swung open, Malik stood there smiling as if nothing was wrong. "Zariah," he said smoothly, spreading his arms like he was welcoming me back from vacation. "Look at you, glowing from Africa. Come inside, sit down. We have things to talk about." I pushed past him, my voice shaking with fury. "Don't you dare act like this is normal, Malik. You sold my house." "My house?" He closed the door calmly, leaning against it like he had all the power in the world. "Relax, Zariah. Don't be so dramatic. It was just a business move. You left the house sitting there for months. Empty. Wasted. I saw an opportunity, and I took it. You should be thanking me." "Thanking you?" My voice cracked under the weight of disbelief. "I trusted you to protect it, not steal it from under me. How could you?" He walked toward me, that same old charm flickering in his eyes, the same charm that fooled teachers, friends, even our parents. "Listen, little sis. You don't understand how business works. Money has to move, property has to move. You were holding on to something that could be more useful. I turned it into cash. You can build another house, maybe even better than the one you had." My fists trembled at my sides. "That wasn't your decision to make. That house was mine. Mine. You didn't lift a finger to earn it. I bled for it, Malik." He shrugged, almost bored, as if my pain was just noise. "Family shares everything. You wouldn't even have had that house if not for the sacrifices our parents made. And I needed help. You wouldn't give it, so I helped myself. Don't act like you're the only one who deserves a good life." For a moment, his words spun around me, sharp and poisonous. He wanted me to doubt myself, to believe I was selfish for holding on to something I earned. He wanted me to carry his guilt so he wouldn't have to. But then I saw it clearly. He was never trying to protect me, never trying to look out for family. He was looking out for himself, the same way he always had. My trust meant nothing compared to his desperation. I stepped back, my voice cold now, sharper than it had ever been. "You didn't just sell a house, Malik. You sold the last piece of trust one had in you. And you'll regret it." His smile faltered for the first time. And in that silence, I knew the war between us had only just begun. I barely slept after confronting Malik. My mind spun with anger, confusion, and desperation. How could I fight this? My house was gone, strangers were living in it, and my brother was pretending he had done me a favor. I sat at my desk, stacks of papers spread out, scrolling through legal websites, searching for anything that could undo what he had done. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I still believed I could fix this if I just worked hard enough. At first, it was the usual path: real estate laws, property transfers, fraud cases. But then I stumbled on something strange. When I typed in the address of my house, it didn't pull up the same way other properties did. There were red flags, hidden documents, notes about restricted land use. My stomach twisted as I dug deeper, clicking through government records that weren't supposed to be public. The more I searched, the more uneasy I felt. And then it hit me. My house wasn't just an ordinary piece of property. The land it sat on was part of a federal project, quiet, barely mentioned anywhere, but very real. It had been flagged years ago, marked as restricted territory for reasons not openly explained. The government had no intention of allowing it to be sold. In fact, it never should have been on the market at all. I pushed my chair back, my hands shaking. Malik hadn't just betrayed me. He had stepped into a minefield without realizing it. Selling my house wasn't just fraud, it was a direct violation of federal law. And now, because my name was tied to the property, his actions could drag me down too. I closed my eyes, replaying every moment. Him pressuring me for access, him smiling while assuring me he would protect my home, him brushing off my rage like it was nothing. He thought he was clever, that he could make quick money and smooth it over later. But this wasn't a small mistake. This was a crime that could ruin lives. The weight of it pressed on my chest. Malik had always been reckless, but this was different. He had no idea what kind of storm he had unleashed. The buyers thought they had a new home, but they were sitting on land the federal government never meant to give away. Malik thought he had solved his money problems, but he had just signed his name on something that could land him behind bars. And me? I was caught in the middle of it all, the rightful owner whose trust had been weaponized. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about betrayal between siblings. This was bigger, dangerous. Malik hadn't only destroyed my trust. He had tangled both of us in a fight with forces far beyond what he could charm his way out of. I stared at the documents glowing on my screen, my heart pounding. This wasn't just personal anymore. It was federal, and Malik had no idea what he'd done. I walked into the lawyer's office with a folder clutched so tightly in my hands that the edges were bent. My heart was racing, but I forced myself to breathe. The attorney, a sharp man with graying hair named Mr. Whitaker, skimmed through the documents while I sat across from him, twisting my fingers together. When he looked up, his eyebrows were raised almost to his hairline. Ms. Adetola, this isn't a normal property dispute. Your brother didn't just commit fraud. He sold land that's under federal restriction. This could get very complicated very fast. The words made my stomach lurch. Complicated was the last thing I wanted. All I wanted was my home back. But Mr. Whitaker didn't stop there. The buyers could sue. The government could press charges. And since your name is tied to the original purchase, you might get pulled into this too. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It felt like I was drowning. Malik had put me in the line of fire with his carelessness. Not only had he stolen my house, but now I could be punished for something I never even touched. But then I remembered something my parents used to tell me. When someone drags you into the mud, you can either sink with them or climb out stronger. I straightened my back and told Mr. Whitaker everything. From the day I left for Senegal to the moment I found strangers living in my home. He listened carefully, nodding slowly, then said, "You've got a shot. If we present your evidence to the federal agency before this blows up, you can protect yourself. But your brother? He won't walk away clean." That was all I needed to hear. The next few days were a blur of phone calls and meetings. I sat in cold government offices, sliding over copies of my deed, bank statements proving how I bought the house, text messages where Malik promised to watch over it for me. Each piece of evidence was another layer of truth, another shield to keep me safe. When the federal officials finally spoke, their words cut through me like ice. The sale is illegal. The property should never have been transferred in the first place. The buyers will be refunded by us. But fraud was committed, and charges will follow. Your brother forged authority he didn't have. My hands trembled, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was relief. They saw it. They understood I wasn't part of Malik's scheme. For once, the spotlight wasn't on me. It was on him. Of course, there was still risk. I could feel it hanging in the air. But deep down, I realized something powerful. Malik had dug his own grave, and I didn't have to fall into it with him. If I played this right, I could step aside and let the weight of his betrayal crush only him. For the first time since stepping off the plane, I felt a spark of hope. Justice wasn't just possible, it was already on its way. The plan wasn't easy to swallow, but I knew it had to be done. The federal investigators sat across from me in a quiet office, explaining how I could help seal Malik's fate. "He trusts you," one of them said. "If he admits what he did in his own words, it'll be undeniable. We just need you to draw him out." I thought about it all night. Malik was my brother. We had shared childhood secrets, fought over the TV remote, laughed at the same jokes. But now, he had ripped my life apart without hesitation. He had chosen greed over family. And if I didn't protect myself, he could drag me down with him. So I agreed. The next day, I called him. My voice trembled, but I forced it to sound softer, weaker, like I was ready to forgive. "Malik," I said, "I've been thinking. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe you did what you had to do. Can we meet? I just want to understand." There was silence, then his familiar laugh. "I knew you'd come around, Zariah. I'll see you tonight." I wore the tiny recorder the agents gave me, hidden beneath my jacket, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would give me away. When I walked into his apartment, Malik greeted me with that same careless smile, pouring drinks like we were about to celebrate. "You see," he said, handing me a glass. "I told you it wasn't that bad. You'll thank me one day." I forced myself to smile back, though my hands shook. "Just explain it to me. How did you even pull it off?" Everything looked so official when the buyers showed me the papers. That was all it took. Malik leaned back, pride shining in his eyes. Easy. I signed everything. Faked the power of attorney, filled in the gaps. You wouldn't believe how simple it was. They didn't even question me. Cash in hand, debt's gone. And you? You'll never get that house back. It's done. Each word burned into me, but I stayed still, nodding like I admired him. Inside, I was screaming. He kept talking, bragging like he had just won some great prize. You were too careful, Zariah. Houses aren't meant to just sit there. I made it useful. And honestly, you should be grateful. You wouldn't have had the guts to do it yourself. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the truth. This wasn't about survival. This was about pride. Malik wanted to feel powerful, to prove he could take what I had built and call it his own. When I left his apartment that night, my recorder heavy with his words, I felt a strange calm wash over me. For the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't just reacting. I was in control. Malik had trapped himself with his own arrogance. And soon, he would realize just how big of a mistake that was. The morning they came for Malik, the city was still half asleep. Federal agents moved with quiet precision, their black jackets marked with bold white letters. Neighbors peeked through blinds as Malik stepped outside, confused at first, then stunned as he was surrounded. His swagger evaporated the moment the handcuffs clicked shut. Malik Abrahams, the lead agent said firmly, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and the illegal sale of federally restricted property. His face drained of color. Wait, what? No, you don't understand. This is a mistake. But the agents weren't listening. They read him his rights as the entire street gathered, whispers rising like smoke. For years, Malik had strutted around, larger than life. Now he looked small, powerless, and exposed. I watched from a short distance, my chest tight but steady. I had handed them the recordings myself, every word of his confession captured in crisp detail. There was no wriggling out of this. Malik had built his own cage with arrogance and greed, and now he was finally inside it. At the federal office, the buyers of my house sat with stone faces. They had thought they'd made the deal of a lifetime. Instead, they learned their money had gone straight into Malik's pockets, and the property they believed was theirs wasn't his to sell. The government promised refunds, a bitter balm for their pride, while I was handed the paperwork restoring my full legal rights. The keys felt heavier in my hand than ever before, not just metal, but justice made tangible. Later, I saw Malik in the holding area. His hair was unkempt, his usual sharp clothes replaced by a rumpled shirt damp with sweat. He looked at me, eyes wide, and for the first time in years, there was no mockery, no smirk. Just desperation. Zariah, he whispered hoarsely, pressing his hands against the glass between us. Please, talk to them. Tell them I didn't mean it like that. You know me. I'm your brother. I was just desperate. Don't let them do this to me. I swallowed hard. The part of me that remembered late nights watching cartoons with him, or our mother scolding us both for sneaking cookies, wanted to crumble. But then I remembered the months of fear, the betrayal, the way he had laughed while telling me I'd never get my house back. You did this to yourself, Malik, I said quietly, my voice steadier than I expected. You chose greed over family. You chose pride over love. And now, you're facing the cost of that choice. His face crumpled, his mouth opening to plead again, but I stepped back. For once, I didn't hesitate. I didn't try to save him. I turned and walked away, leaving him behind the glass, behind the bars, behind every shadow he had cast over my life. For the first time in years, I felt light. My home was mine again. My life was mine again. And Malik was nothing more than a chapter one had finally closed. The repairs took weeks, but every nail hammered and every wall repainted felt like reclaiming more than just a house. It was reclaiming myself. When I first stepped inside after the government returned the property, it barely felt like my home anymore. The strangers Malik had brought in had stripped it of warmth. Furniture was gone, walls were dented, and the air carried the staleness of intrusion. But I wasn't going to let Malik's betrayal define the place I had built with years of sacrifice. I hired workers, yes, but I also rolled up my sleeves. I patched cracks in the walls myself, planted new flowers in the garden, and scrubbed floors until they shone again. Every act of care was an act of defiance against what Malik tried to take from me. Slowly, the house began to look like mine again. Not just bricks and wood, but the dream I had once carried as a young woman saving every dollar. There were nights, though, when the silence pressed too heavy. I would sit in the living room, staring at the space where Malik and I once laughed over pizza, when loyalty still seemed unshakable. My heart would ache with the loss of not just a brother, but the illusion of family I thought I could trust. I mourned him, not the man he had become, but the brother I once believed he was. But grief turned into clarity. Family wasn't supposed to feel like a knife in the back. Family wasn't supposed to use your trust as currency for their own mistakes. Malik had crossed a line no apology could erase. For the first time in my life, I let myself accept that blood alone doesn't bind people. It's actions, loyalty, and love that do. And Malik had chosen betrayal. So I cut him out of my life. No more visits, no more calls, no more second chances. Some wounds demanded boundaries, not bandages. It hurt, yes, but it also felt like freedom. One warm afternoon, after the final repairs were done, I stood at the threshold of my home. The fresh paint gleamed softly in the sunlight, the garden bloomed with colors I hadn't seen in years, and the air smelled of lavender from the candles I'd lit. I placed my hand on the doorknob and paused, letting the moment settle deep in my chest. This was no longer just a house. It was proof that I had survived Malik's betrayal, proof that I had defended what mattered, proof that I was stronger than the storm he dragged me into. As I walked inside, I didn't feel like a victim anymore. I didn't even feel like just a survivor. I felt like the guardian of my own life, the only one who truly protected this home from destruction. And for the first time in a long time, I knew I was finally undeniably safe. Do you think Zariah made the right choice by cutting Malik out of her life completely? Or should she have given him one last chance to make things right? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd really like to hear what you think. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to hit subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next one.